There are philosophers who comfort the world, and there are philosophers who diagnose it. Friedrich Nietzsche belonged to the second kind. He did not try to soothe anxiety. He tried to expose its source. Long before modern burnout, digital distraction, and spiritual emptiness became common language, Nietzsche warned that a great crisis was coming. A crisis not of economics or politics, but of meaning itself. He believed that Western civilization was heading toward a psychological vacuum, not because people would lose comfort, but because they would lose belief. The foundations that once gave life direction, religion, absolute morality, divine purpose, were slowly eroding. And when those foundations collapsed, Nietzsche predicted people would not become free. They would become empty. His most famous and most misunderstood line captures this earthquake in a sentence. God is dead. He did not mean that a deity had literally died. He meant that belief in absolute, divine meaning had lost its power over the modern mind. Science, rationalism, and critical thought had dissolved the old certainties. But humanity had not yet learned how to live without them. The result, Nietzsche said, would be nihilism, not traumatic despair, but quiet meaninglessness. A dull sense that nothing ultimately matters. That values are negotiable. That purpose is optional. When people no longer believe in a higher order, they do not automatically become courageous creators. Most become tired consumers. They replace truth with comfort and transcendence with distraction. Nietzsche saw this coming with frightening clarity. He described a future human type he called the last man. This was not a villain, but something more disturbing. The last man is comfortable, entertained, safe, and spiritually exhausted. He avoids risk. He avoids depth. He avoids suffering. He wants stability, stimulation, and security, nothing more. The last man does not ask great questions. He asks for better conditions. Look closely, and the image feels familiar. A culture obsessed with convenience, endless entertainment, constant stimulation, motivation without direction, pleasure without transformation. Nietzsche believed that once higher meaning collapsed, many people would shrink rather than rise, because meaning is heavy and freedom is frightening. For centuries, morality was anchored in divine command. Good and evil were believed to be objective truths handed down from above. But Nietzsche argued that these moral systems were human constructions, born from psychology, power, fear, and social control. Once people realized this, morality itself would become unstable. This did not make Nietzsche immoral. It made him radically honest. He believed inherited values should be questioned, tested, and if necessary, destroyed. Not to create chaos, but to make room for authentic value creation. He did not want blind obedience. He wanted conscious living. But he knew something most optimists ignore. When old values fall, people suffer. The collapse of meaning feels like vertigo. When the map disappears, freedom does not feel like liberation. It feels like falling. Modern emptiness, in Nietzsche's view, is not an accident. It is a transition state, a dangerous in-between. The old gods are gone, but the new creators have not yet emerged. Humanity stands in a psychological desert, surrounded by comfort, but starving for purpose. He warned that people would try to escape this emptiness in predictable ways: herd thinking, ideological fanaticism, blind nationalism, shallow pleasure, and moral conformity. When individuals cannot create meaning, they borrow it from groups. They dissolve themselves into crowds. This is why Nietzsche distrusted mass movements. He believed psychological safety often comes at the cost of individuality. The crowd removes responsibility. It replaces truth with agreement. It rewards sameness and punishes depth. Against this, Nietzsche proposed a dangerous alternative. Become the creator of your own values, not casually. not romantically, but through struggle, discipline, and inner confrontation. He believed real meaning is not discovered, it is forged, and forging requires pressure. Suffering, in his philosophy, is not proof that life is broken. It is proof that life is real. Comfort alone produces fragility. Difficulty produces strength. He did not glorify pain, but he recognized its transformative power. A person who never struggles never deepens. A mind that avoids darkness never expands. Nietzsche believed the modern world was trying to remove all existential discomfort, and in doing so, it was producing shallow souls. He did not promise happiness. He promised intensity. And intensity, he believed, is closer to truth than comfort ever will be. If the old meanings are gone and inherited values are unstable, what comes next? Nietzsche's answer was not despair. It was transformation. But not collective transformation. Individual transformation. He believed a new kind of human being must emerge. One who does not inherit values, but creates them consciously. He called this figure the overman, often misunderstood, often misused, but psychologically profound. The overman is not a superior race or political ideal. It is a psychological achievement. A human being who has faced the collapse of external meaning and chosen to create inner meaning instead. This creation is not motivational. It is existential. It requires self-overcoming. The continuous act of confronting one's weaknesses, illusions, fears, and inherited beliefs. Nietzsche saw the self not as something fixed, but something to be shaped. You are not discovered, you are built. Most people, he believed, avoid this work. They prefer identity handed to them by culture, religion, tribe, ideology. Self-creation is lonely. It removes excuses. It removes blame. It demands responsibility at the deepest level. This is why Nietzsche placed such emphasis on struggle. He believed resistance is necessary for growth. A life without challenge produces a person without depth. Hardship is not merely an obstacle. It is material for transformation. He expressed this through another famous idea: become who you are, not who society rewards, not who comfort supports, but who you are capable of becoming when illusions are stripped away. This process is painful because it requires psychological honesty. You must see your envy, fear, resentment, and self-deception without decoration. Few people want that. Nietzsche also introduced a psychological test called the eternal recurrence. Imagine your life repeating forever, exactly as it is. Every pain, every choice, every mistake, repeated infinitely. Would you accept it? Or would you reject it? The purpose of this thought experiment is not metaphysical, it is ethical. It asks whether you are living in a way you can affirm. Not tolerate, affirm. It demands that you live deliberately enough that your life is not an accident. Modern emptiness, through Nietzsche's lens, is not solved by more comfort, more positivity, or more distraction. It is solved by deeper confrontation, by value creation, by psychological courage, by refusing passive existence. He did not want followers. He wanted creators. He did not want belief. He wanted strength. And strength, for Nietzsche, was not dominance. It was self-mastery. To master your impulses, to understand your drives, to transform resentment into action, to turn suffering into power. This is not motivational language. It is psychological alchemy. Nietzsche predicted modern emptiness not to frighten us, but to challenge us. The void appears when borrowed meaning collapses. But the void is also space. Space for creation. Space for authorship. Space for becoming. The question is not whether emptiness will appear. The question is who you become when it does.